Welcome back, Ellen Boeder.
Good to be with you, Jayson Gaddis.
Yes, yes. What are we talking about today?
Talking about a really charged topic.
I like charged topics.
I know you do. You're not afraid to ruffle feathers.
Yeah, and I get my feathers ruffled and I don't like it, so I can appreciate anyone who will get their feathers ruffled on this one.
Yeah. I wanted to unpack something you brought up recently on Instagram.
Yeah.
About this dynamic
fault versus responsibility.
Yeah. It was a post on fault versus responsibility.
And I've been talking on social media a lot about victim versus author.
Yeah.
And sort of what the deal is there.
Mm-hmm.
Because people have a hard time here.
Yeah.
And yeah. So what did you sort of notice besides a lot of people fired up and defensive and
it's funny when I don't read all your posts, honey. I just sometimes don't see them all. But I'm not on there enough, but sometimes I do. I'm just like, I'm curious how people reacted to that. And then you just see the people so mad.
So angry.
And some people so yes, and some people so no. And it's like, it's just intense to watch. And
yeah.
And so everyone's coming from their own, valid perspective and life experience. And I just felt like, gosh, I know what you mean, because I know and understand the whole thing you're trying to explain there in a few Instagram slides.
Yeah. And that's what's often missing in social media is context.
Totally.
And the whole picture.
Yeah. And
so you try to get these sound bites out there, and because people don't have the whole picture, they just attack you.
Yeah.
And it's makes sense because they're missing context. So I don't feel like I'm blaming them. I can appreciate their feelings here.
Yeah. It's like, you don't want to get in a fight with anybody on social media. And then you also know that you can't fully unpack something in that context usually. And so we could unpack it more here. So that's why I thought, let's talk about it here. So maybe start with just what you were saying in that recent post or something.
Yeah. And I've posted about this for years off and on, and I usually get the same feedback. Unless people are at a workshop of mine or in a course of mine, then they start to understand what I'm talking about.
Totally.
Because I have more time and space to nuance this and unpack it more. But the basic post was, there's a difference between fault and responsibility. I used an example. If you cheated on me, I would be so livid and I'd be in my victim seat. And all of us would. Whenever we get hurt, we go to our victim position, which is valid and appropriate. This person hurt me. You hurt me. And you become the villain. And then I look for a rescuer to take my side. And that's a friend, a therapist, a coach, someone to say, dude, I can't believe my wife cheated on me. Can you? And they're like, oh my God, that is so terrible. And now we're in a triangle in systems theory, which is very stable and hard to change if I stay there, if I stay in my victim position. So it's valid and appropriate to say and to think in the moment it's your fault
that I'm hurting.
Because it's your fault because you hurt me.
Yeah.
You did something that hurt me and it's your fault. This wouldn't have happened and we wouldn't be here if you didn't cheat on me. And it's so obvious. So that stage, it's like a stage or a step in the recovery process and the working through a betrayal, for example.
Okay.
And then, and I don't want to stay there. Personally, my constitution, who I am, I want to use this devastating experience as an opportunity to get to learn about myself and to get stronger and to become empowered through any pain that happens, quote, to me in life. Parents, my childhood, years of neglect, whatever the thing was. So I am, ever since I started working on myself, that's been my sort of MO, as to how do I use all of this hurt Actually, it wasn't since I started working on myself. It was since I met DeMartini, really. And since I started studying Buddhism.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I get empowered through this? This is awful. And I've worked with a lot of people, as have you, who've been cheated on and are still hurt and angry about it 25 years later. And I think that's a problem. I don't think we need to stay hurt and angry 25 years later, because that's not good for us and our life and our health. And to resent, to continue to hate, to continue to close my heart, to just be carrying that burden of hurt because someone betrayed me. So I have learned tools to not feel that way myself. Right? I'm like, I don't want to stay angry at my parents my whole life.
Right.
No, thank you. I want to look at how my parents and even the hurtful behaviors, how they've helped me on my journey. And that's what I teach in my courses. And not everybody wants to learn that.
Right.
And some people get very attached or fused to their victim with whatever the circumstances are, and they don't want to come out of that place.
Okay. Why do you think people get attached to being to this, like you said, their victim, like the victim stance, let's say, like the victim perspective? That why do people get attached to, like, hey, no, that person hurt me and I deserve or should never have to feel any differently about that. I should hate and be angry. And
it sort of starts to become, they start to get things out of that stance and that position.
Like,
such as support from a therapist, friends that feel sorry for them, friends that orient around them as, oh, there's poor Jayson. He's such a victim. And that feels good. I have all this attention. I have all this support. I have all these people paying attention to my pain.
Sympathy,
empathy, whatever. I'm getting a lot of food.
Care, maybe?
Relationally.
Yeah.
You know? And it's when we're hurting in life that, you know, other people show up for us. Right? But we all have that sort of friend that won't evolve. They continue to, as some people would say, play the victim. And they burn friendships out. They start to burn people out over time. I'm talking about years, right?
Yeah.
So all of us, and people think I'm blaming the victim. I'm like, no, I'm saying we're all victims, including me. I was just recently hurt big time. And I went right to my victim position. I went right to blame. I went right to,
like, why me?
And they attacked me and those people and that person. And then I wanted rescuers, and I got that. And like, I'm not above this. Okay, this is human nature.
This is like a human process. Yeah,
it's a human process. And no one talks about this when you see on social media, like, get over your victimhood, or you're just being a victim, or you're just playing the victim. It's like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you're stuck in your victim, and you can do things to get unstuck. And I have a victim too. I'm not saying I'm above this or better than this.
Yeah.
Or I've climbed the victim mountain and I'm no longer ever going to be a victim in my life. No, you cross me tomorrow. You, Ellen, hurt me in a week. You say the wrong thing or something that, you know, give me a look. I'm going to go to that place. Okay, I'm human here.
Yeah.
But I hate that feeling and I don't want to stay there. So I learn to feel my feelings, do all the things, get support and get challenged, not just support, but get challenged. That's why I love challenge and support. You know, that's loving someone, really caring for someone is, you know, just listen to their woe is me story. You listen and you, that really sucks. And you say, well, okay, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know, now this is hard. This argument's harder when it comes to systemic issues. Okay. Like
totally.
Racism.
Yes.
Or sexism.
Yes.
Or misogyny or violence against any group, right? If I'm Black, I'm walking around all day and there's a certain level of, I am swimming in, like, a part of me is a victim of oppression all day long.
Right.
And women also have been dealing with this for millennia, right? So there's another layer where it gets more complicated.
For sure.
Where someone is like, hey, Jayson, you don't understand what it's like to be Black or a woman or transgendered or whatever. And you're right, I fucking don't. I can do my very best to put myself in your shoes and start to go, okay, that sucks. And wow, to live with that day in and day out.
Yeah.
You know, in a system, say, or a job that doesn't support who you are fundamentally. And then on top of that, they have just the everyday hurts that we all get.
Yeah.
Or the divorce or the betrayal or the, someone, is just mean relationally, bullies them or makes fun of us or whatever, there's layers.
Yeah.
Either way, there's still, to me, the same conversation of, okay, this is going on. I have just a couple of choices.
Yeah. What are they?
I can stay here and say, woe is me about whatever the thing is. Or I can say, okay, this is going on and I don't like it. And I'm going to do things to change the system. I'm going to do things to change my life. I'm going to do things to speak up, speak out. I'm going to do things to that feel good, that feel empowering to me. But the problem is a lot of victims, when they're stuck in victim consciousness, is they stay in victim consciousness. And there's they think empowerment is like blaming someone else now.
Yeah, like maybe just like, hey, I get to be angry about this.
Fuck
this hurt, this injustice.
Yeah.
And then that's it? Or like say more. I'm trying to picture it.
Well,
because people got angry about what you were saying.
I'm thinking of you, as a woman.
Okay.
Let's just talk about you.
All right. Let's see how you do here.
Yeah. And you educate me often here where I sort of get it wrong. And I don't understand right, at all what it's like to be a woman. But with what you're reading, for example, on evolutionary biology and all the things you study about neuroscience and everything, you notice how most of the research is done by men, on men.
Yeah.
For example.
Right.
Right. And you're like, dude, this sucks. Like, where's the research on menopause for women? And what the hell? Oh, right. We're living in a patriarchal system that is pretty male dominated. And, it makes sense that there's not a lot of research here because we're living inside this bigger system called patriarchy. And you still, given that, you're not over here blaming the man or men in general for how that is. You're saying, I want to make a difference. I want to use my voice to reach women. I want to model to my daughter how to be empowered inside this system. Right? You're not saying, I can't because of the system, or I can't because of you, Jayson, because you're a man.
Yeah, no.
You're not saying that. You're not saying I can't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting just thinking of that right now. I'm like, right, it seems like, and there are all these kind of obstacles and limitations.
Yeah. And there probably always will be.
And it's like, I still want to move forward and I still want to pursue what I want to pursue. And I go cycle through feelings about that around what's been available to me, what's not, but I'm still, using my voice or finding my way with it.
Hey, quick interruption here. Imagine a career that draws on your passion for personal growth and relationships, that harnesses your ability to support, challenge, and connect with others, that helps you develop as a person while you help others at the same time. What if you could earn a living while making an impact on thousands of people's lives and even on the future of society and how we treat each other? It'd be pretty cool, right? Well, that job does exist. It's the job of a relationship coach, and I believe that the relationship coaches in the world are going to play a crucial role in the future of our culture, not only in the US, but abroad. 1 in 2 marriages still ends in divorce. 3 out of 5 Americans are lonely. We've got a serious loneliness epidemic and a looming mental health crisis that's, I think, already here. Couples that do well live 10 years longer than couples that don't, okay? According to the Gottmans, 80% of couples are headed in the direction of divorce within their first 4 to 5 years of marriage. Yikes. Okay, relationship stress is chronic disease. It creates chronic disease, in my opinion, from what I've read and the research I understand. I think it really hurts people everywhere. And I think the only way to really address this you could say relationship crisis, really, because it looks like a mental health crisis. It looks like a loneliness crisis. But we have to ask why. What is the root of this? Well, possibly how we raise kids. Possibly it's how we treat each other in our intimate, closest relationships. And the bottom line here is that people need help. They need your help. And our relationship coaches are slowly growing their businesses and doing well and feeling fulfilled and like they have a meaningful purpose and career where they get to work for themselves. So if you want to come be a part of this amazing training, you can apply right now. We're taking applications. That's open currently, and go to relationshipschool.com/RCT if you want to apply and get an interview. We do offer a portion of scholarships to people that enroll if money is an issue, and it's a big investment. But if you think of the return on the investment, what you get out of this training, you are going to transform as a person, as an individual, and you're going to become a better partner, better parent, etc. And you're going to learn how to effectively help people with their relationship challenges, thus leading to less loneliness perhaps and less mental health challenges for people out there. Okay. So come apply for our amazing training, relationshipschool.com/RCT.
It's hard to talk about all the different layers because I think each layer, whether it's systemic or in our home, in our personal life, whether it's at work or career, in our family of origin, like there are all these different contexts in which we might have an experience where we are victimized, right? There's natural disasters, there's violent events that we have no control over. Mm-hmm. And I think since we can't unpack all of those here right now, I think what you're trying to say is what I think inflamed people on social media is this idea that of finding like your part in whatever painful thing you're experiencing. Like, can you say more about, I might not be saying that right, but.
And I think even as you asked that, I see the potential flaw in my language.
Okay.
Because as a woman, it's like, I don't have a part. Like
I was born this way.
I was born this way. And what are you talking about, dumbass? And that's true.
Yes.
Like you don't kind of have a part. And women have risen up for the last many decades, feminism and everything else, to say, no, here's my part. I'm going to fucking change the system. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to get more rights for women, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say to someone who's had an affair, it's like, what's your part? And and I've worked with a lot of affairs for many years. And I challenge someone who's been cheated on, they, don't like it. Cause I'm saying, well, is it possible that you fell asleep at the wheel in your marriage and you co-created a condition that made your marriage vulnerable to an affair? Could you look at that, please? Could you look at the fact that maybe you, were not attending to your sex life together and you didn't get help. You didn't read books. You didn't advocate for change. You didn't challenge the person. You just sort of, I don't know, got busy and, went along with things, or you were working all the time. Like I'm challenging people who have been cheated on to say, is there anything I did and can take responsibility for that contributed to this? I didn't make the choice. That's not my fault.
Right. To cheat. Yeah. You're not responsible. You're not responsible for someone's choice.
Yeah. Or a child is not responsible for their parent hitting them. Of course. Right. That's not, but I'm like, you're an adult now. Is there anything, it's a worthwhile experiment to look around and self-reflect and go, is there any way I contributed to the causes and conditions that led to this choice by my partner? Does that make sense?
It does. And I can see where that can feel really, irritating to the whole spectrum of like enraging to someone, because I think someone could easily say, I did everything I could to make this marriage work or to make this person happy or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there isn't, like, when I look around and I'm thinking of just a lot of couples I've seen, that people come in like, look, I've spent decades putting everyone else first, or putting this person first, or trying to work with, or thinking they were lying to me the whole time. Like, how am I supposed to know, all that. Yeah. And so I think sometimes in this specific situation, and maybe others, their part in contributing to getting hurt, if that's how we're saying it right now, it can be just way more subtle.
Yeah.
And when I think of people I've worked with too around this, it's like oftentimes what I'm helping people do is just put together to see that when looking back, they see that there were red flags that they overlooked.
Yeah.
Or there were things that they didn't feel great about in this relationship that they just didn't think they could change
totally listen.
or address. Yeah. And they just were like, in order to keep this going, I can't, that's not going to change. So I'll just live it. So they think I'm doing all this overextending kind of for this relationship. And then this horrible thing happens. But looking back, it's like, oh, I actually wasn't really taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And, so there can be really subtle, it can seem subtle along the way that like, wow, I stayed in something that wasn't good for me. And I knew it, or I saw it along the way, or I felt it.
Or I didn't even want to get married, and I walked down that aisle and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, there's things along the way that are kind of very quiet at times and seem kind of innocent, and definitely don't mean that you participated in someone you didn't help that person make that choice to betray you, but the importance of doing this self-reflection of like, where was I in all of this can help you have this not happen again. You actually, there are actions and behaviors and choices we each can make to be more self-aware, take better care of ourselves later in a situation like this. Now, you're not talking about a sudden, random, violent, or natural disaster. Like, that's a totally different thing.
Totally different thing. But even still, a natural disaster, we've had friends go through many natural disasters.
Yeah, we have.
It's like, those people are still asking the question, what is it why would I attract this into my life? Which is a little different way to say it.
Yeah.
And that's a person who's extremely privileged to even say that, but it's awesome.
Yes.
It's very empowering to go, like I had a challenge recently, and I asked that question. Why did I attract this into my life? Like, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to show me? And it's just I think an extremely empowering way to look at this stuff. So
yeah. So how do you go ahead?
Well, I'm saying, just to say, with all the affairs I've worked with over the years, 100% of the time, for the people that were self-reflective and were willing to be challenged, this is of course after a lot of validation.
Yeah.
A lot of, oh shit, that sucks. That's terrible. Oh my God, let's feel the feels.
Right. A lot of repair around having been betrayed, because that's, if someone wants to be in relationship with you after an affair, they have a lot of getting back in good with you to do.
And some people, and I've interviewed a couple on the podcast, get stronger because of the affair. Because it shook things to the core, and they had to redefine who they were together.
Yeah, they ultimately have to redo their whole relationship if they want to continue together. Yes.
Yeah. And that's love. That's like, wow, love you guys just really showed up for each other, like such a commitment, such a deep way. But I was going to say 100% of the time, the people that were willing to self-reflect got some value out of that exercise. And were like, oh, right. Yeah, I didn't listen to the signs. Oh, after we had kids, I just went into work mode, and I put my head down thinking that was going to be
what my partner needed or wanted.
I totally neglected the emotional connection.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I see that now.
Yeah.
So for people who are willing to self-reflect, and not everybody is, because again, I think the victim in some of us gets so fused to the personality and the identity, and then they get all kinds of reward, social reward or whatever for it, that it becomes who they are. And that's now how I see life. And I'm thinking of a couple people. We all have someone in our family, for example, like this. We all have a friend like this. We've all dated maybe someone similar to this. And it's actually very difficult to be in a relationship with someone who is fused in victim consciousness.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of no room for you. And you can't grow. Growth requires you to move out of victimhood into authorship, where you're taking responsibility for your part in a relationship. You're taking responsibility for whatever you're doing to contribute to the relationship problems. You're looking in the mirror, and you're not doing it in a self-blaming way. That's the other distinction, which is where we started this conversation. has nothing to do with blame. This has everything to do with personal responsibility and accountability. What do I need to do to change? What can I change about myself? I'm getting this feedback in life, and this keeps happening to me. I'm the common denominator, right? That's what changed me in my life. I was blaming every woman, and then I was like, maybe I'm the problem. And I literally changed my life. I became a different person.
Yeah. You said something earlier about just the sort of, it can be a privileged position to be able to ask some of these questions.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know how much we need to speak about that, but I think there can be something true about that. That someone who's had a lot of support and resources, and the hurts or betrayals have not gone so deep or gone on for so long or to such an extent that they can genuinely self-reflect and look at what can I own here, or what do I have to learn from this experience?
Someone in survival mode, it's very hard to self-reflect. Okay,
so you're just trying to get by. You're just trying to get through the next day. Yeah,
that's a different kind of. I'm talking. People listening to this podcast are, I think, very privileged.
Yeah.
If you're living, as Coleman Hughes said on an interview recently, so you're living in the United States, you're very privileged, more than most of the world. We have freedoms and choices here that most people don't have. No matter where you are on the lot, in terms of your socioeconomic status, your color, your gender, we have incredible privilege and choice here. And yes, some more than others in this context. For sure.
And I think that something that I have wanted people to do more of in terms of self-reflection is, to me, sometimes an easier question to ask than what can I take responsibility for? Because I want to say that I'm someone who can feel responsible for everything in the world that's going on that isn't good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm playing a part in that, or because I'm not doing enough, I'm contributing to that. Like, I can get really bogged down with responsibility for the world's problems.
Yeah.
And really any problem I might see out there. And so I'm constantly working with separating that out. So someone who already takes so much responsibility for how things are, and then they get hurt, like that can feel so inflaming to hear. You need to take more responsibility. You're already like,
I'm
pretty sure I'm overdoing it, and that's not the answer. So if you're that person, a better question for you is, what am I learning about myself? What am I learning about what I value? Like, what am I learning about how I want to live and go forward? What's important to me? Because sometimes...
What am I learning about myself?
What am I learning about myself?
Not just like things out there.
Yeah. What am I learning about myself and what I care about and what's meaningful to me and what I want to protect, advocate for, stand up for in my own life.
Yeah.
Because I think anyone can do that, because we're all learning, I'm learning how important it is for me to have a relationship that's mutual and where we're both invested to the same extent. Or I'm learning how much my family matters to me and how important my kids and partner are. I'm learning how important it is to be financially secure. You know, like sometimes the things that really hammer us in life can become really meaningful values that we live into and help us really create a life that's meaningful for us. And I personally really like that approach because responsibility can feel so loaded for some. I think maybe especially for women. Where we're, again, I'm generalizing hugely here, but just more conditioned to take care of everyone and look after people and consider others first. And, it can go to a really codependent kind of extent for a lot of us. And then you hear the statement of taking responsibility for more. And it's just like, you can't even let that in.
Yeah. That's really great. I think I'll use that moving forward.
Honey, we should have talked before you posted.
Yeah, I just sometimes just wing it, as you know.
Hey, if you want to uplevel your life, your relationship life specifically, I want you to consider our Relationship Mastery program. It's 9 months of complete transformation where you become a better listener, a better communicator, you learn how to have secure relationships, and you get an experiential taste of that. You feel seen and supported and challenged to reach your relationship goals. And really, you become a better communicator. So many people have gone through this course now. And we have a done with you version of it now, which is amazing, where you get assigned a private relationship coach. You get to do live group coaching with me once a month and ask me anything you want. There's office hours where you get to meet with one of our coaches to nerd out on the curriculum. And the community is very strong. And these are people who care a lot about relationships and they want to get what they want to get, which is they want to be in a relationship and not betray themselves, right? They want to get the relationship they want while being true to themselves. That's what most of us want. And this course is the path for you to get that. Here's what one of our participants in the past has said about this course.
What I would say to people that have been listening to the podcast but aren't ready to take that final step into joining the course, the most powerful thing has been like the partner calls. The accountability is something that you're not going to get by just listening to podcasts on your own. Because I thought the same thing, like, oh, I'm getting a lot out of just listening to these podcasts, and I'm, been in therapy, I've, done this and that. To take that deeper dive and the commitment. There's something about just the financial commitment, the time and the energy that you put into it. What you put in is what you're going to get out of it. And so, again, if, invest in yourself.
All right. Amazing words from one of our heartfelt students here at the Relationship School. If you want to change your life like they did, go to relationshipschool.com/relationship mastery, and we'll see you in there.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's super helpful. And I want to ask you some questions, though.
Yeah.
Because you're, even with your orientation around how much responsibility you take.
Yeah.
Right. And feel like, oh, it's all on my shoulders, or I'm not doing enough, or whatever.
Right.
You still don't stay in your victimhood.
No.
Like ever. So what is it that you do? Do you do that with yourself? Or you're like, what am I learning? Is that?
I do that.
Yeah.
Totally. Because
you get hurt and you go right to you're like me, you go right to victim position with things, right? When you get hurt.
Yes.
So how do you get out of there?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's similar. I have to work with that part of me that feels responsible and like I have to fix, and it's up to me to do something because I've learned over time. I mean, I'm 49. So I've learned over time that that's just not true. Yeah. I'm responsible for myself.
Yeah.
And my choices, and I'm going to do whatever's most in my integrity. And when I take responsibility for other people, it usually doesn't go that well.
Totally.
And so there is, so responsibility can be a tricky word for me. And so, yeah, if I think of a recent example, like if I go into like, why me? I keep getting hurt or whatever. Yeah. I need to slow down and feel, yes, get support. I talk to you, I talk to friends, and then I start thinking of how am I gonna move on from here in a way that feels good to me. And sometimes I have a particular situation right now where I really don't know what the next step is. Yeah. And so I'm not taking a step. I'm just like, I don't know what's next in this relationship.
But you're receptive to learning, is my guess.
But I think I'm receptive to learning. I'm checking in with people. What do you think I could do here? I'm asking people I trust because I feel stuck and unsure about, I know what I would do if I was kind of doing I'm responsible for everyone and every problem and I need to fix it. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the other way is yet in this one situation. And so I'm kind of just waiting.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Or depending on the relationship or the situation, there's lots of different choices. I mean, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
that's helpful. I'm just coming back to I've asked so many podcast guests this question, like what separates, like 5 people grow up in a family.
Yeah.
3 people grow up in a family. One person gets out of that family system and becomes empowered. The others don't.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah. What do people say?
People, or there's some people in life that won't move forward, and they blame their circumstances, they blame everyone else, and they continue to stay stuck. And their identity is around their victim consciousness. But yet other people with the same circumstances, same socioeconomic status, same color, skin color, same gender, whatever the thing is, but they're different. Like what's different? Why can one person do it and another person not do it? And every label we put on humans, there's a person that can do it.
Yeah.
And then there's a person that can't do it or won't do it. And I really, after studying human beings this long now, I just think there's some people, and I honestly believe it's associated with personality disorders or personality injuries very early on in life, that the conditioning and the child rearing is such that it reinforces, like learned helplessness, for example, is a perfect example, and it's well studied in psychology.
Yeah.
If I learn to be helpless, I learn to get things, and I don't have to do a lot. And there's a lot of people in that camp in the world. And that's very hard, again, very hard to be in a relationship with these people, very difficult to kind of get anywhere together, whether you work with them or you're in an intimate partnership with them, or if you have a child like this and you're like, how am I contributing to my kid who feels like they're like a total victim, like learned helplessness? And I think it starts very early. And the identity and the personality formation in those first few years. I'm curious what you think.
Well, I think that could be true. I mean, again, we're speculating here. We don't know. There's not enough research. But it's an ongoing question in psychology, is why are some of us more resilient than others, is what you're asking, basically, in some ways. Like, because more resilience to me means I am willing to meet challenges more head on. I have
overcome them.
Well, and I have more faith in myself and belief in myself that I can face challenges, work with it, overcome it, that it's worth the risk, that I'm going to grow, that growing and learning is possible through doing something difficult. And so I think that someone who's stuck in a victim perspective maybe had some early injuries for sure. And they also haven't had enough experiences of facing challenge and overcoming it. So sometimes those people they haven't had enough support to face and overcome challenges, because we can't necessarily always do that by ourselves. I think there's just such an there's an interesting combination there. And then
there's like nature, nurture. There's like who the constitution of the kid is.
Come in as what you're here to do. Because I think staying in that victim perspective is, you're kind of saying, don't challenge me. I don't want to grow and learn. If you challenge me, that invalidates my pain and invalidates my suffering, invalidates, and it makes the hurt and pain I've experienced like okay, like really all these things that I don't think you're saying. But in that victim perspective, it can be scary to be challenged to face the growth opportunity or the learning opportunity, because you don't want to invalidate the pain. We're such a dismissive, invalidating culture.
Totally.
And I think if that has happened enough throughout a person's life, if their feelings and experience and truths have been dismissed, criticized, if they've been belittled just for who they are, that person too is probably going to be less willing to take ownership, to look at what they have to learn, because it feels like more, they don't want to dismiss their own pain.
Right. So what they're doing simultaneously as they're getting dismissed is they're getting support elsewhere for a different approach. And let's just use learned helplessness as an example, is if I continue to get dismissed and not supported, I'm going to find ways unconsciously and consciously to get support, to get my needs met, basically. Learned helplessness is one path, is like, oh, I know how to get the big people here to get off my back or to get less pain in this system of this family, I'm going to just sit here and pretend I can't do anything. And again, this is unconscious for little ones, but later it becomes like a strategy.
Well, I guess I'm thinking of adults because children in development, I think, is a whole different conversation of how this emerges. But I think by the time you're an adult, if you are holding on to your victim perspective, it isn't necessarily because you got support for that.
But you're getting something out of it is what I'm saying.
Well, and I would say what you might be getting, because as I've worked on this in myself, what I might be getting at times is just that it's comfortable.
Right.
That it's familiar, that I maybe had enough experiences of feeling dismissed and, whatever, dismissed is good enough. That it's like, oh yeah, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to exist in the world from a place of feeling like no one cares what I think or feel.
Yeah.
And if I get comfortable there, if I get used to that, even though it isn't going to help me grow and learn and overcome that feeling, I can get just stuck there because it's just what I know.
Exactly.
And so
it's kind of your identity.
So it's like you don't even have to get support there. I don't think you can just be familiar with that experience, and something different feels scary because it's like you don't know what's going to happen if you. And again, the worst thing that would happen, I think, from a victim from that kind of victim perspective, is like the worst thing that would happen is that this pain gets dismissed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so I don't want to do that to myself, and I'm afraid if I grow or I learn or I face this, like at least I'm validating it. If no one else supports it or gets it, at least I'm doing that. But there's nowhere to move there in that place. And that I think we see that with people is that we know that there is so much more, that you can actually validate your pain.
Yeah.
And grow.
Absolutely.
That like it's both.
Yeah.
That you don't actually get to grow without really including what you've been through.
Yeah, and it's transcend and include.
Exactly.
And also in the transcending process of your pain, you feel it all the way through and get validated, and it moves. You kind of let go of it, right? And it's sure the injury or whatever has become part of your narrative now and your story and your life trajectory, but you're moving forward. You're taking the next step. You're saying, I don't want to stay here. Like I'm thinking of a single person, let's say, who's just stuck at home and doesn't want to put themselves out there, who's stuck in a bit of a victim position. Well, I've gotten rejected. It hasn't gone well. These dating apps are overwhelming, or I don't like how I look. I'm not attractive. Whatever the stories is that reinforce the position, which is staying in what you said is the comfort zone.
Yeah.
To leave the home would be to get out of the comfort zone.
Totally.
Or to get online and like get introduced to someone, and there's that person who will stay stuck for years. And that person, I think, is more fused to their victim, and they don't feel like they have the support to take a risk and get out and just, but they also don't have someone challenging them and kicking them in the ass saying, no, dude, you're awesome. Get out there. And that's, again, I just think when people get overly identified, it becomes self-reinforcing. And then this is just who I am.
Yeah.
Tell myself this story and I can't leave, and no one likes me, and
I think it's important to keep naming, and I think you've named this, like there's a process here.
There's a journey to
There's a journey to make. And part of that journey is really validating your experience. The hurt, the pain, the struggle, the challenge.
And to be seen in it.
And to be seen
by another person.
That just how gnarly maybe something was, or things were, or things are.
Yeah.
And there is a point where, for our own growth and development, if that's what we're here to do as human beings, I think that's a big part of what we're here to do, then there is more beyond that.
Yeah.
And it can be very small, little changes or steps, but there's going to be risks that have to be taken, actions taken, and development to get out of that place.
That's right. And Ellen and I have worked with, I think we should talk a little, just briefly, about the therapist, coach, client dynamic when we're working with someone. So for you therapists or coaches listening, or psychiatrists or doctors, whoever, or health coaches, like there's people we work with that are stuck in their victim.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I got really tired of with psychotherapy. I was like, oh my God. And I finally was like, there's all these clients that I wanted to blame, like, dude, you're not changing. Like, what is your problem? And then I was like, okay, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's my skill set.
Yeah.
So I went and got better tools, and studying with DeMartini was a huge step, for example. And then I started like bringing like a different level of challenge and support to people, and I started getting better results.
Mm-hmm.
But there were certain people that didn't want to move. They didn't want to change. They just came in and repeated week in and week out their story. And it started to feel bad that I was collecting a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't help you.
Yeah.
And this is where I truly believe there's some people that not only do they not want to be helped, they can't be helped. Because to be helped, you need to want to be helped.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? There's just some people that are like, not going to change.
Yeah, it's true. And I always want to keep the door cracked that
you're being really considerate, honey, but I heard you in our kitchen talk about humans, and you're
hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying. Okay. I just want that at some point, that person that you're talking about that doesn't want help might one day want help.
True. When they're 80,
they don't
70,
want help right now, and that's time for you to go. Yeah. And one day they might, and that would be lovely. But there are people who don't, and I've had a lot of those clients too. I think a lot of people come into therapy. Some people come in being like, I want to learn and grow and develop and figure my shit out. Yeah. That is an awesome client.
Mm-hmm.
Some people come in somewhere else on that spectrum. And they have work to do to get to sort of the, oh, wow, this is fascinating. It's interesting. There's so much I'm learning here, And then some people come in really like, I don't want to be challenged. I don't want to have to look at anything. I come in here for you to listen to me.
Yeah.
And empathize with me and validate me, and that's it.
Yeah.
But anything beyond that, I'm a no to.
Which is change.
Right. And development. And there are a lot of therapists who will just sit and listen and validate and empathize, and nothing else happens in the session.
Yeah.
And therefore you get some relief as a client, but you don't actually develop and change. And I think that's not good therapy. I think good therapy includes deep validation and empathy and high support for development and change and growth.
And what about challenge?
Well, I think that high support for development and growth involves challenge. Okay. I have to challenge a person to take the next step, to make the next like mind shift or do something beyond just being validated and empathized. If all you did, Jayson, was validate and empathize with the things that are upsetting for me and not ever offer me more than that, like hey, Ellen, like you can see things about myself I can't see. You can help me follow through on things I say I want, but I'm scared to do.
Yeah.
Like you do those things for me and with me. And that to me is how we grow and develop. It's not just through, like with our kids, we empathize, we validate, and we're doing the next challenging thing too. Like we have to do all of that. So good coaching, good therapy involves that for sure. And I do think people come into therapy thinking it's going to be just, I should get a lot of just validation and empathy in here and not actually have to look at where I still have to grow.
Yo. As you know, I've dedicated my life to helping people with their relationships, right? I want to solve this problem so that all of you can work through your differences and have fulfilling, amazing, badass partnerships and relationships, family, coworkers, friends, whoever. And I have trained a ton of relationship coaches, almost 100 certified relationship coaches, to help you specifically work through your relationship challenges. So I want to invite you to a special deal we're offering to the podcast listener. where you can get 50% off your first month of coaching with one of our amazing relationship coaches. Okay, if you're tired of therapy, it feels like that's going around in a circle, or you want to actually set goals and accomplish your relationship goals, hire a relationship coach. Okay, go to relationshipschool.com/get coaching now, and then use the coupon code FIRST50 to get the 50% deal off your first month of relationship coaching. Super psyched to have our amazing coaches serve you and help you get to the next level.
I'll talk about myself for a minute. Where I have been a victim and I'm finally changing it was in my health, particularly around like my body injuries and all my athletic injuries. I would go to chiropractors or have surgery or go to physical therapists, and they would say, okay, here's what's wrong, do this. Mm-hmm. And I was so entitled, and this was my victim. I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't do the exercises. I've talked about that on the podcast before. That's like classic example of someone who's like, you might as well just say to your physical therapist, look, I'm not going to do these exercises, just so you know. I'm not going to do shit here. I'm not going to lift weights. I'm not going to stretch. I'm not going to follow the protocols that would actually help my body. Because there's some part of me that believes I don't need to do this.
Right. They don't.
That would have been direct.
People don't think they need to.
They don't.
Totally.
They're just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I was way too comfortable in my comfort zone, not willing to change. And now I finally clicked that, look, if I want to live a good, long life, very vital and strong, I'm going to need to apply myself here.
Every day.
And I have to push through the victim in me and work with the victim in me that's like, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of us are this way with food. A lot of us are this way with our finances. So it's not just relationships.
Totally.
The victim in us will show up everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and it's not just around hurt. It's sometimes like, because empowerment takes effort. And I think privileged people like myself, whatever privilege means to you, are some of the hardest victims to work with because they have so much and they can insulate their world to be so comfortable that they don't have to lift a finger. Mm-hmm. So like they think they should just meet the one and it should just work out. Right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And again, it's just it's like another little thing of victim consciousness sneaking in there. Mm-hmm. So please understand here that I'm not saying I have transcended my victim. I am not a victim anymore in my life. And I'm like good to go now. You pick the area. I can find money, health, whatever. I have a victim in me, and I consciously work with that part of myself. And it's not easy. Like Ellen said, it's a journey. You've got to make a hero's journey to become who you are and to be fulfilled in life. You're not going to get fulfillment by pointing the finger outward or inward at yourself in blame. Mm-hmm. But if you can point the finger inward in terms of maybe learning, is maybe going to be my new term, learn about yourself and grow and develop yourself, dude, your life's going to change.
Yeah. And I'm something I'm appreciating. I know this conversation's going long, but it's a good one. We're into it.
Keep going.
You and I are into it. Yeah. But we haven't brought up like, compassion and forgiveness. Like, we're not talking about making it okay that someone or a system is treating you a certain way. Like, we're not taking on that whole idea.
Right.
We're really, just really talking about your own development. Mm-hmm. And we're not saying anything about how you should feel about people or systems that have oppressed or hurt or betrayed you. Like, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
This piece is such a big mover in your life, and you will, this piece of learning and ownership of yourself and your attitudes and your mindset and your desire to grow and develop with whatever is coming your way. That's such a big mover in life. And then how you feel about people and systems that have contributed to your hurt and pain, it will evolve. Mm-hmm. But I don't think either of us have any should about how you're supposed to feel or what you're supposed to do there. It's a very personal process.
Very personal. But, I will say, I'm just thinking of people who've gone through our courses, for example.
Yeah.
And there's always, a small group of people who feel for whatever reason that the school has wronged them, or I've wronged them, or, there's some egregious thing here. And let's say that happens to you with your parents or an ex or something like that. I think I want people to aim as their North Star is to be fast forward 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You've grown and developed when you can look back and be like, I learned so much from that experience myself. And I'm not holding blame toward those groups or that person or that company or that whatever. There's a certain level of resolution we can reach in ourselves. We know we've grown and developed. I think the true measure of your development is when you can reflect back on your past, make meaning out of it, and not be pointing the finger in a way that's instead, like, again, and this is a massive step, but even being grateful for some people and some of the traumas because it shaped who you are, because you grew. And you can only get there if you grow and develop yourself. You actually can't get there if you don't.
And again, this is where I'm like, yeah, I can see how you even saying like being grateful for those things.
Well, it takes a lot.
And it's not necessary. I don't think it's actually necessary to, like, I think you can get to neutral. Like if you get to, okay, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I don't ever wish that on anyone or myself again.
Yeah.
And I did something with that, and I'm proud of that. Like I learned something. I'm more clear about something. I know who I am and what matters to me and what I will never do. If you learned anything, you could possibly get to a point where you're like complete with that person, that event.
Yeah.
And it's not consuming energy from you anymore. Like there's a sense of neutrality. Like that is, I'm done with that. I'm done with that relationship, that person. It's no longer activating me. That is huge. That is enormous. Huge. And I think that it can just start to borderline on spiritual bypassing, to be like, you should get to gratitude. You didn't say shit. About
intellectual fucking gratitude.
I know. But I just wanting to cover that like you might at times feel grateful for certain, like I'm grateful for certain people breaking up with me for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the time you were like, fucked up
damn,
about it.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Because what if I had ended up with that person? And then there's some events that I don't feel grateful for. I feel like, that sucked, and I'm doing something meaningful to me now with the residue of that experience. Like to me, that's great.
Yeah,
I feel good with that.
That's an excellent point. You've turned painful experiences into meaning.
Yes.
And you're helping people, right?
Yeah.
Because I imagine there's a correlation or a relationship between whatever the painful thing was and what you're doing with your life now.
100%.
Right. And I want people to also make that connection. You move from victim to author when you learn and grow and develop yourself, and you make meaning, and you're looking back and maybe you're not grateful, but like Ellen's saying, you're like, that shaped a huge part of my life and what I'm doing with my life now and my choices now. And I still think, for me, that moves toward gratitude and just being like, wow, I'm so, I'm kind of glad that happened, because who would I be if that didn't happen? And I'm definitely not talking about spiritual bypass, intellectual shit here. It has to be sincere and deeply genuine, which the only way to get there is to grow and develop yourself.
And I'm saying,
you can't just read a book and go like, DeMartini said, or Jayson said, or whatever.
And I know you're holding, like, you could feel glad and grateful one day for some of that stuff. And I'm saying, and you don't have to.
You don't have to. You could.
I don't think that's always
there's the person that sometimes we just need to cut people out of our life or set a really firm boundary.
Totally.
And that's the most loving thing we can do
for ourselves.
And we finally got to a place where we could set the boundary.
Yeah.
And never look back and be like, wow, that experience, I could never have set that fierce of a boundary had this not happened at this magnitude or this level, this painful experience. I had to go to that level. I had to like find that in myself.
Right. That helped me get to a point where I could do something strong enough. Yeah.
To like put my foot down.
Yeah. Where I knew it was just like no longer negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different life experiences and relationship experiences. We couldn't possibly speak to all of them. There's different contexts and journeys to make, but hopefully you're feeling inspired to face whatever your challenges are today.
Yeah.
And meet them in a way that is in the service of how you want to grow and develop as a person.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's the only way. Like, this is my strong bias, is the only way to live a fulfilling life is to work through our challenges. I mean, like, how are you going to get fulfilled if you don't work through your challenges, whatever you're facing?
Right. Because we can't avoid them.
Yeah.
They're coming. They're coming.
They're coming. They're coming tomorrow, next week.
Yeah.
In your marriage or in the world or, you know.
Yeah.
And I just think I have this deep belief in human beings that like you can find it in there. It's inside of you. And to sit here and say I can't or I won't or blame or make all the excuses, I'm like, I don't buy it. Like, I'd love to work with you and show you part of yourself that can find your way here and get to the next place. Yeah. Because it's a beautiful thing to find that in ourselves. I mean, I think that's part of the reason I'm here, is to help people do that.
Yeah, you're good at that.
Thanks.
Yeah. In your own life and with the people you care about or work with.
Yeah.
I see that. Should we call it?
Yeah, we could keep going. Well, I'm going to be doing this for 2 days with a bunch of people.
Yes.
For my relationship as a personal development path retreat, which Ellen will be at. We're recording this before that, but this will come out after that. And I think those folks are going to have an amazing, incredible experience. So, because we're going to kind of learn more about this.
Yeah.
How do we actually do this and make the journey?
Yeah.
Thanks, honey.
Yeah, thank you.